You've slowed me down. You've slowed me down.
And isn't that something that's really important for growth, for true growth, when you are fully rooted, when you are fully anchored, when you have strong foundations? So what does it mean to be growth ready? Well, first of all, there has to be that willingness to engage, to reach your potential, to light up. And then there has to be the action to take it. For me, as a breathwork facilitator, as a teacher, it is all about using my breath to allow myself to show up fully in every single moment.
Hello there, it's me, Steve Meller, and welcome in to Growth Ready, the podcast that allows high performers to reveal the reality behind what it means to ready yourself for growth, the personal and professional challenges along the growth journey, while also allowing the high performance executive coach in me to satisfy his curiosity toward what drives optimal performance. Today, we welcome in breathwork facilitator and founder of Breathing Space, Benedict Beaumont, into Growth Ready to put me through my paces from one coach to another. In his work, Ben helps folks around the world see how a person's breathing directly impacts how they show up. And as you will soon learn, there's an endless growth waiting for each one of us as long as we can recognize the depths of our strength and the role our breath can play in accessing what's inside us all. Hey guys, as we get started here with the episode, I want to just take 1 minute of your time to make a request for you to subscribe and rate the show. For our show to be easily discovered by other potential listeners, we need our current listeners, that's you, to take the time to not only subscribe, but to also rate the show. Whether you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, whatever platform of choice, there are typically ways to be rating the show. So go ahead and click something like that 5th star and be sure to take that additional time to leave a comment or two about why it is you enjoyed listening to the Growth Ready podcast. Your efforts on this will allow our show to be more discoverable, which means we're going to find more listeners and continue to have that significant impact on the community of human performance and personal development that I know you are all benefiting from by being listeners to this show. Please go ahead, take the time, subscribe, rate the show today. Hey, and while you're at it, why don't you share it with a few people as well? I appreciate you guys. Let's get to the interview. Hello, and welcome back into the most recent installments of the Growth Ready podcast. I am delighted today to be welcoming in a fellow Brit. He is based in the UK. As you all know, I am not, but I am really just encouraged by the, let's say, the speed at which we've been able to get to know one another through a common connection of ours from podcasts that we've both been on. But maybe we'll get to that story at some point. But for now, before we go any further, Benedict Beaumont is joining us on Growth Ready today. And as you know by this point, Ben, before we go any further, I have to ask you the question, what does it mean to you to be growth ready?
Thank you, Steve, and a real pleasure and an honor to be with you here right now. Is it okay if I answer your question in a slightly different way?
Bring it on. Bring it on.
I'm going to invite you to just stop, to pause, and to share some breaths with me. And everyone listening, if it's safe for you to do so, if you're not driving or operating heavy machinery or playing with knives or fire, to just use these few moments ahead of us to connect with your breath. Does that feel okay?
Feels good to me.
Well, let's share some breaths together. Do you feel more ready for growth now?
I sure do. You've slowed me down.
Too.
You've slowed me down.
And isn't that something that's really important for growth, for true growth, when you are fully rooted, when you are fully anchored, when you have strong foundations. So what does it mean to be growth ready? Well, first of all, there has to be that willingness to engage, to reach your potential, to light up. And then there has to be the action to take it. For me, as a breathwork facilitator, as a teacher, it is all about using my breath to allow myself to show up fully in every single moment.
I am so glad that you've started this conversation in the space that you operate in, that you've immediately drawn and welcomed us all into your world through the skill of breathing. And who'd have thought it, right? Who'd have thought that breathing was a skill? We've all taken it for granted since the day we were born, and yet already from the very short time I've had the privilege of knowing you, I've now been exposed to your world in a way where I know breathing is a skill for all the reasons you just alluded to. That the fact that we need to be intentional with it in order to optimize its capabilities. And that isn't like that for me is where we're starting, right, Ben? That's where we're starting right now. Like, think about what I just said and what you've allowed us to consider straight away. It's like doing what is necessary to optimize one's capabilities. Like, is that what breathing is?
It's miraculous, really. You're right. It is something that we take for granted. It is something that we do every single moment of our lives. We start our lives with it. We end our lives with it. But what most people don't realize, it can be so much more than just something that keeps us alive. It is a secret doorway, if you like, into an internal world of not just physical health and well-being, but emotional balancing, perhaps also to deeper transformation on emotional or creative or even spiritual levels. It is something that we all possess. It is accessible to everyone. And yet for most people, most of the time, it is taken for granted.
Yeah, I would love to start there with our human nature to take things for granted. I can't help but want to stay right there with you because, you know, your story, and I'd love for you just to share some of your story with the listeners. You know, your story really speaks to someone who was, right? You were taking the act of breathing for granted. And I'm sure, like me, there were other areas of your life too that you were taking for granted as well, that were you to slow down and appreciate the potential impact they can have, that we can then actually put the necessary gravity on said skill set, said blind spot, if you will, that now it's time for us, if we were to appreciate it and respect it enough, we can actually start to do the work around it. And I would love for you maybe just to give me some of your insights around to not only what you see in the work you do, in the sense of how we as humans tend to take things for granted, but maybe just go back to even your origin story of how you have become the professional, the expert, the specialist in this space now, because of some of those awarenesses that you obviously went through.
Absolutely. There's something, a real thing that I notice in people, and first of all in myself, how you breathe or how someone breathes really mirrors how they show up in life. So for people who are struggling, people who are stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, you'll see a different breathing pattern to someone who is totally relaxed, totally present. And the invitation there, or at least the opportunity, is if we can change how we breathe, perhaps we can change how we show up in other parts of our life. So I'll talk about my own experience to begin with. I was that kid everyone will recognize in class, that wheezy asthmatic kid who was never any good at sports, that was quite bookish and quite clever, and to try and defend himself from actually not being able to what he wanted to do was quite arrogant and dismissive around physical activity. And yet inside me, there was always a deep longing to be able to run in the grassy fields, to excel at team sports, or to perhaps even just develop a long relationship with fitness that I regret every day that I don't have now. And that difficult relationship with my breath was very present in my childhood. I grew up in an age before there were, or in my young years before there were good medications for asthma. So I remember my mum, when I struggled to breathe, holding me over a boiling kettle in the bathroom. I remember her rubbing not just Vicks on my chest, but camphor to try and ease my breathing. And it wasn't until I was almost a teenager that there were drugs on the market like Ventolin or salbutamol that enabled me to breathe a bit more easy, and certainly made, at least temporarily, accessible to me some of the sporting incidents. I didn't help myself as I grew older, I will tell you that as well. When those physical pursuits were denied to me, I found creative expression in other ways. And I'm very sad to say that I was a very dedicated and passionate smoker throughout my 20s. I really enjoyed that, but it was killing me. It was killing my lungs, really impacting my health. And it really wasn't until I was in my 30s and I started to understand what would happen if I didn't make some changes to my life, where I would going. I had a really strong wake-up call to a look in the future, if you like, to say, well, you've got a choice now. What kind of person do you want to be? This was bigger than just smoking. This was bigger than just a commitment to fitness or health. It was a commitment to reaching my potential. It was a realization that I had that you only have one life. What is more meaningful to do to actually fully light yourself up, to become the person you were meant to be, rather than the person that you failed to become? And for me, I will say that started absolutely when I discovered, although the journey towards it started long before, I really embraced it when I discovered my breath. And as I invested in my breath, as I worked on my breath, as my breath eased and got stronger and clearer, so all those other aspects in my life, not just the physical sport, but the frustration that I'd always felt, the keeping myself small, the lack of reaching my potential, all of those things started to change. And it was when I truly discovered my breath that those things happened.
Thank you for all of that, because the context that you're providing here now allows everybody to understand that your journey is one of resistance in many ways. It's just like you resisted what was best for you. That's a really relatable, it's a really relatable thing, It's just, but it becomes more relatable when we own it. I think a lot of us blindly will do that. We will blindly resist what is best for us. But I'm hearing someone that once you created that awareness, it's almost as though you couldn't get enough of it. Once you got the awareness and you knew what was best for you and the benefits of what was best for you, it became its own drug in the sense of, hey, I this is all I want now. I only want this thing that is feeding me the most effectively when it comes to me charting my course to achieving my potential, however you want to put it. That's how I'm hearing it from you.
That's a really good point. And, as people, we are so resistant to allowing the universe to run our plan. We have a plan in our head and we get, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And actually that isn't what wants to happen. And my experience is that the world, the universe, fate, whatever you want to call it, will send stronger and stronger messages to you that you need to change. And you know what will happen if you do not listen to those messages? They'll just get stronger and stronger and they'll stop being messages. They'll be more than a tap on the shoulder. Sooner or later, you're going to end up either ill, in hospital, or potentially dead. Yeah. And I actually feel there was a lot of resistance to it at first, but I feel I started to understand the importance of those messages and listening to them earlier on than so many people. So many people who just blindly carry on in a career that is not serving them, going through burnout, going through unfulfillment, going through repeating patterns that no longer serve them, or wounds that they're just refusing to face until it's too late. I resisted, but I am so grateful that eventually I listened and made choices that didn't just serve me, that really, really did serve me on a personal level, but I believe have served not just the people that I connect with, the people nearest and dearest to me, my children. Oh my goodness, I'm so much of a better father than I could have been. I'm a better husband. I'm a better friend. I'm a better teacher now. But I also believe that everyone else has benefited. For me, trusting that I was to do what the universe wanted me to do rather than just what I felt I should be doing or what other people thought I should be doing with my life.
Why do you think we resist? Why, I mean, think about that sentiment. Like, why do we resist what's best for us? It doesn't make sense, does it? So why do we resist? Like, and again, coming from the world that you're operating in, and feel free to continue speaking to your own story, but you know, why do you think we resist?
Oh, well, do you think it's an ego thing? I'm right. I want to be in charge. I want to do this. Yeah. Perhaps it's that, I know best. Perhaps it's a lack of trust. Perhaps it's a lack of trust when you let go and you allow things to happen, that things will work out. Maybe it's wounds from child. What do you think? Trusting the universe, trusting fate, trusting your luck. So many people have got deep wounds from childhood. They've been passed on trauma or characteristics that aren't really supportive to them. They've learned lessons when they were very young and vulnerable, and yet they don't really serve them anymore. Messages around money or security, for instance, that their parents had, that they inherited from their parents. And so it's not easy to do that. There are a lot of reasons why people find it very difficult to change, to move, to grow. There's so much pressure on them from an early age to conform that it's difficult. And I am full of patience and tolerance and understanding for people who struggle, who aren't ready to do that, because everyone's journey is different. Everyone has a different path ahead of them, and it's not always easy for people. So I totally understand that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I'm so glad you mentioned that at the end. And I always like to remind guests as well, is that the beauty of this podcast is that just about everyone who decides to tune into this show has already decided that they've got some of this stuff to work on. They've already got a smell of it, a whiff of it. Like, okay, there's something here for me, Ben. Like I know I need to work on some area of myself, and these conversations are going to help me maybe create greater clarity around this. And there's something you're saying here, though, that I think is fascinating, is that for us to be ready to listen, we need to be ready to trust. And I think that it's why I asked you, like, trust what? Trust who? And for you to say, like, the universe, it's like, well, what's my relationship with the universe? What's the universe done for me lately? Right? I'm a Christian. I'm someone that came to my faith in the last 3 or 4 years. And the beauty of my story from a faith standpoint is that I had 36 years in my life of where I was able just to look at evidence around me and say, if this is the best that God's got, then what am I, why should I believe in this guy? But then I love how you just put it, because whether it's a God that you believe in, a universe you believe in, a happenstance you believe in, whatever it is you believe in, for me, that word believe says everything in that moment. It's like, if you don't trust whatever this thing is you believe in, then do you really believe in it? Right? Like, do you say you trust the universe? Well, sorry, you say you believe in the universe, you believe in the stars, you believe in what you believe in. But if you're not going to trust these messages, no matter how compelling they may seem at times, then truly, what do you believe in? And like, for me, like, I am just so drawn into that part of what you're saying, is that, yes, the universe sends us messages, but do you believe in the universe to begin with? Do you believe in what has been set out and bestowed upon you or you've been born with. Because if you're not willing to trust it, that probably means you don't believe in it in the first place. And that right there, brother, like the only word that comes up to me straight away is sad. Like that's sad, right?
Well, everyone is ready at a different time, and that's something that I have learned, that you have to trust people when they are ready, and you can't force people to believe, to trust, to grow, if you like, until they are ready. And that's a very difficult lesson to learn as a teacher and as a parent. You can't make your kids grow. I think I heard a saying once about you can't, if you take a flower bud and you try and pull it apart and make it flower, you're just going to pull it apart. So I really understand that. I'm loving your description of the universe and your relationship to your faith, because there's so many different ways that you can describe this, that people might understand in their own particular way. Some people with faith, for instance, with Christian faith, but other faiths, some people who have a different understanding of the divine. But for me, it is about a recognition that we are more than just this physical world that which we live in. There is inside each of us something strong, something wise, something deep, something that is more than just this bag of skin and bones. However you describe it, whatever words that you use, whether it's Christian-based or whether it's more universal, for me, that has been an absolute pivotal moment of embracing that I am more, that we are more, that the world around us is more than just the physical world that we can touch, see, and feel. There is a deeper energy around all of us that we're all part of.
What would you say gave you that ability to recognize your strength, the depths of yourself, the fact that you are more than skin and bones? Like what helped you get to that point of recognition?
Well, my upbringing, I suppose. My mother was a Quaker, which in England is very different to what Quakers are in North America. In England, they're barely a religion. They barely have any faith, because I know Quaker Buddhists, Quaker pagans, I know Quaker absolutely don't have anything to do with Christian theology, but it is the recognition, and the words that they use is that there is the light of God within everyone. That is the word that they use, or the concept that they use. So I've always been aware and understanding and appreciative of that. Actually is what I believe in. There is the light of God within everyone. And then through my studies, I studied anthropology at university, which was an amazing subject to study as a young man, where you get an insight into the beliefs and the understanding and the creation of different societies, different cultures, and the role that the divine plays for them. To have that kind of pan-social understanding of how people's relationship to their world happens was a massive eye-opener for me. And it enabled me to just stop following any one particular path, I think, because when you can see all the different paths, they all lead to the same place, and there's different ways that you can get there. But really the pivotal moment for me, at least the most personal transformative moment, was when I discovered my breath. And although I might have understood it intellectually before, when you have a direct experience of your breath, then it changed everything for me. And in my relationship with my breath, in the daily practice that I developed as I began my training, that is what took me from just an understanding of it to actually that physical transformation of growing, of lighting up, of reaching my potential.
Multiple paths to get to where we're going is something that jumped out while you were speaking there, and how the breath itself, how the practice of breathing. I mean, I'm hearing that in that skill, we can potentially find a level of comfort with these many paths, because that's not something we humans do well. Like, you're telling me that I have more than the right way. I thought there was a right way to do things, Ben. Like the right way is the single path, the individual path. And you're telling me there's multiple paths? Like, which one's the right path? And so I'm curious, just even from firstly wrapping one's head around the potential overwhelm, let's say, with knowing that there are a variety of paths to get to a certain destination. how may you work with someone, talk with someone, or how have you personally wrapped your own head around the idea that there are in fact multiple paths?
You know what? We could talk about this all night. But I'm going to suggest we do something different here. And I'm going to suggest to everyone who is listening, again, if you're in a safe, supported position, we try something. Rather than just talking about this, why don't we connect with our breath now and just see how that feels? Would you be willing to do that with me?
Yeah, I'm willing.
Okay. So I'm going to just talk for a little while and we'll go internal. We'll do a little meditation, if you like, or a little centering, a little connecting, and then we will move into a short breathwork practice of around about 90 seconds, 2 minutes. It's going to be a really powerful breathwork, so just be prepared for that. Okay. If you are going to be doing this along with us at home, please make sure you are only doing this if you are seated or lying down. And all those previous warnings about doing this whilst you're juggling fire or knives or sword swallowing or whatever it is, stop that. Find yourself in a comfortable seated position and then just start to breathe gently in and out through your nose. Now, if it's safe for you to do so, close your eyes. And I want you to feel your breath. This is a full body experience, so it isn't just the air coming into your body. Feel your chest rising and falling. Feel the tiny micro movements of the chair that you're sitting on, your clothes against your skin. Now I want you to focus on the sensation of the air entering and leaving your body through your nose. Bring all of your awareness to the sensation of the air entering and leaving your body. Now on an inhale, I want you to take your awareness inside. Let it follow your breath until you reach a still, quiet place within. This is a place of strength, of wisdom, and of love. A place where all of us have inside of us so much potential. And just feel that for a few moments with your breath. Wrap that strength and that wisdom, that stillness around you with your breath. Now in a moment I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to listen to the answer that arises, to feel it rather than just think of it. There's a choice in your life that you have to make, a path ahead, maybe several paths that you've been thinking about. That might be a relationship, or it might be work, it might be a conversation you need to have with someone, perhaps something you need to let go of, or perhaps something that you want to do. Perhaps there's something deeper, something about who you are. So just feel into what that might be for you right now. Is there a path that you need to take? Now just feel into that for a moment. And now we are going to engage our breath for about 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. So I want you to follow my instructions with this. Open your mouth wide, really wide, as if you're taking a bite of an apple. Now start taking full body breaths. That's it. Now as soon as one breath ends, the next begins. There are no pauses here. Your throat may go dry, but keep your mouth open. Wide open. That's it. Full deep body breaths. Let your inhale be powerful. Let your exhale just rush out from your body. Keep going. We've got about 60 seconds left. It's fine if your throat gets dry. Deeper. More powerful if you can. Fill your body with your breath. Don't stop. Your throat will self-lubricate. You're well over halfway there now. It's almost as if your body is breathing you now. You are being breathed. You can go faster, you can go slower, but go deep. That's it. You can do this. 30 seconds left. Full deep body breaths. That's it. "15 more seconds. You can do this. You're almost there. 5 more breaths. Last breath. Inhale. Now close your mouth. Breathe through your nose. Put some pauses in. Your body will start to return to equilibrium, but right now you are going to be very, very aware of the physical sensations in your body. Your pounding blood, the tingling, the changes in temperature on your skin, certainly the dryness of your throat. But as your body returns to equilibrium, just use this moment to reconnect with that question. There's a path ahead of you. Which is the right one? Feel into that for a moment. Maybe something will come through, a message in your breath. Something that you need to understand or to feel. So just for a few seconds more, just listen and feel. And then when you're ready, let's just start to come back. You can blink your eyes open. Give yourself a bit of a wiggle, a bit of a move, a bit of a shake. Welcome back. Welcome back, Steve. After a breathwork, we always have an opportunity to share, to just talk into what that experience of meeting your breath was like for you.
I just found myself slightly exhausted as we came to the end of that, the main part of that, the open mouth work. I'm a pretty fit guy. I'm in pretty good shape. And the idea of wrapping a decision, and I went through that whole process with you, which anybody watching on YouTube would have got a very entertaining view of me going through that. But I just want to make that abundantly clear, like, and I need to write something down real quick. And this is pure. This is just in the moment. I find myself in this moment just noticing the gravity of the decision, the overwhelm that came, the exhaustion that came, and that has been inside of me for weeks now, wrestling with that decision. And I almost found myself not even needing to breathe after we were done with that main part of the exercise. I just sat there in my breath. And I feel as though while I was breathing through my nose, that the clarity of a decision and a direction, one that I at least feel ready to share with those that need to hear it, put me at great ease. It put me at great ease, you know.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah. Thank you, Ben. Thank you. And gosh, I'm so thankful that you're giving us a taste of this work. I've been truly, truly blessed for you to invite me to come and work with some of your leaders in a group session, and to see firsthand how this is being taught. Secondly, to understand that there is no world that is above this work. Because for me, coming in as someone that works in the space that I work in, I saw some connections, but even in our conversation so far, I know anyone who is not only listening but willing to take part in this session is going to see that they are in no way removed from being a cut above in some way, shape, or form for the impact of this kind of work, which really is fascinating. Because for me, when I think about what we've spoken through here for the majority of this conversation, it feels as though breathing right there in itself, the practice of it, the skill of it, has the impact for us, has the ability, to make an impact on what we allow ourselves to make complicated about this thing called life. I'm really hearing and feeling that now, obviously, having gone through that exercise. Does that resonate with you, Ben?
Very much. Very much. And I have to say thank you. You really committed to that process, that exercise. And I could see you fully embracing that and going internally. And I'm also very grateful that you were able to share a little bit about that. We didn't need to know the details, but that is really inspiring for me, but I know for other people, to have you to be able to share that. There is such an elegant simplicity about the breath that just brings so much light and purity to what we can overcomplicate in our heads. So often we dress things up or we build things up when they don't need to be. Breathing is a simple act. Living is a simple act. Making choices is essentially very simple when it comes down to it. And for me, that clarity that the breathwork begins to almost any situation, it allows me. Breathwork I consider as a tool. It's a very powerful tool. It's not the only tool, but it allows me to connect to something so much deeper, an inner sense of knowing, a deeper understanding, a fuller presence with whatever is happening in the moment, that it enables me to show up more fully in those moments. And it is the breath that I credit with that enables me to do that.
Yeah, it's a removal. It's a removal from the internal, in the sense of, gosh, I mean, again, we've spoken about the universe. We've spoken about a God, if that is what you believe in, and so for me, again, it's, we want to be the king of our kingdom. We want to believe we have the answers, or we can personally be the one to go find the answer. That we have all the tools up in between our ears that we need, and yet the breath brings us out of that self. It brings us out of that internalization that we go through, that creates complicated perspectives, opinions, ideals, whatever it might be. And there's something you said earlier that I want to come back to here, because I think it's relevant. You were speaking about your relationship with physical exercise when you were growing up. I love the way you put that, because what I was hearing in that, and I think you even alluded to the fact that to this day you maybe regret that. You regret that to this day. Interestingly, with where we are now in the conversation, I can't help but see what your relationship is with physical or what it has been. And maybe it's improved, but that relationship with physical exercise, I can't help but feel is maybe some sort of self-critic, self-internalization that you've created for yourself, that you've, for whatever reason, throughout the majority of your life, you were unable to align, let's say, with a process, with a perspective that could actually help you get past it. And so for me, I'm just curious, like that relationship with a certain weakness in the self, like how did you wrap your head around it being a relationship versus just simply being a set of circumstances? Because most would say in this moment, like, hey, you described yourself as a child growing up, like it was the hand that you were dealt. This is who you are. This is what I am. There's nothing I can do about it. But you're alluding to the fact that it's a relationship, and that because it's a relationship, it's something that can be strengthened. So tell me, like, how did you get to the clarity and the awareness that it was in fact a relationship?
That's a really good question, to be honest. And it just comes with time. It comes with anything, it's practice. It comes with understanding intellectually, but also the somatic experience of doing things, of seeing change happening in me, but seeing change happening in other people. And a relationship is the best way to describe it, because a relationship is alive. It isn't something that is just defined and set in stone forever. It's a choice that we make in every single moment of how we show up for ourselves or our relationship to something else. We've all had our cards punched. Let's say that we've all got our fixed ideas of what these relationships with. So they're not always easy to change. I'm going to be honest and say that I am never going to be a sprinter or a long distance runner. I'm never going to be a soccer player. I'm never going to be an Olympic athlete. Although I am a really good swimmer, actually. My dad was my father was a county champion swimmer back in the 40s. So I actually have a very good relationship to that. But there are parts that I know that I'm never going to be able to have that ease and flow with, as if I'd learnt it as a young age. As if I'd developed that joy in that relationship. I just accepted that there's some things that I'm not going to ever enjoy in the same way that I could, if I'd developed that when I was young. But that idea of it being a relationship comes from understanding, comes from working with it, comes from seeing the differences that it makes when you accept that. What I do every single moment is developing that relationship, understanding it and working with it. So there's no easy answer. It's a commitment to it. It's a practice of showing up, not just every day, but every moment as much as you can, for yourself, for others, for the universe, for God, however you wish to describe that.
Yeah, and I love how you came around to the benefit by looking at it through this lens of relationship. It's this, it becomes the commitment. You say the word relationship immediately, I think of my wife. It's just the way it's always going to be. And the fact what makes that relationship a success is the commitment to the relationship, the willingness to strengthen it, the willingness to acknowledge when there are holes, when there are flaws in the relationship, and our willingness to address them in the moment instead of maybe ignoring them, maybe ignoring those messages, like you said earlier. I think the relationship opens the door to, like you said, the strengthening of, but because of that, it allows us to see it as the commitment that we want to make. Really, like, what I love about this conversation is we're now getting to this part where it's like, okay, well, if for whatever reason you're not ready to listen to messages because you're not ready to trust, whatever it might be, well, stop by simply looking at it as a relationship and try to build a relationship. Like, through building of the relationship, trust, I would like to believe, will come. That trust will come. And so if there is a lack of trust towards certain aspects of yourself, of the universe, and what it's doing for you and giving you and telling you, start by just looking at it as a relationship that's worth working on. And like that's what I'm hearing from you, Ben, is like, if we make it a relationship, we immediately put a value on it. We really put a value on it. And then we have to ask the question, is it worth the investment?
Oh, of course. I mean, that's an easy question to answer. I do feel that there is a desire in everyone to be whole, to be more, to light up more. And there is a willingness to do that. An instinctual desire for humans to be better, to do better, to show up better. And that helps. I do feel that our head gets in the way sometimes and think, to do that, I must do this, which often comes from, our education or from the social values that we were taught from our young, or the lessons our parents gave us, rather than listening to what is happening deep inside, to that inner wisdom that I think all of us have. So we do have advantages in there, that there is it's risky though. For a relationship for a relationship to be successful, for it to be meaningful, it has to be alive, and it has to have that opportunity of failing. For instance, so certainly in relationships with, our dearest, and notice if they're truly valued, then we have to be aware that what will happen if they are not, if they are neglected. And that's difficult. That's not easy, to treat every moment that you have in relationship with someone that it could end, because it can end. And that is just something that if we wake up to that all of this conversation, our next breath has got a finite value on it, well, the value in it then suddenly magnifies beyond belief.
Gosh, it's so important to hear what you just said. Is the idea that a neglected relationship will come with certain consequences, like that. And we're not talking about the obvious kinds. Like, yes, obviously those relationships matter, but the thing we are saying, that we're just not saying it specifically, is that this is a relationship with yourself, right? This is the relationship with the self, the one that for whatever reason we neglect more than any relationship typically. And can you put enough value on that? Can you respect the consequences of the neglect in that relationship enough to where you'll do this kind of work, where you'll build these relationships with the areas of self that you've neglected, right? And that's what so much of this is we're talking about. And that something as simple, and I say simple but not easy, something as simple as breathing, and effective breathing, can give you the space, the clarity, the speed, in terms of the slowness of speed, that allows you to see what you otherwise cannot see. And that's the irony of what you and I do, is that we're both in the industry of helping people get out of their own way.
Isn't like that the truth?
Right. And for me, you've done that with me today, just by going through this exercise, for instance, but through a number of other ways as well. But I really want to pass it over to you as we start to wrap this up. And like, something you've said a number of times is that we are worth the investment. You've said it in a variety of different ways. Probably my favorite way that you've said it is like, how do you light yourself up, or why do you light yourself up? And I'd love for you to maybe just answer that question from your own perspective. Like, for you personally, why do you light yourself up, or how do you light yourself up, or what's the point? What's the point of lighting yourself up? Like, just help us into your world and the value that you put on yourself in that regard.
From a young age, I've always wanted to reach my potential. And I do feel that is something that is inherent in everyone. I've tried to say that as well. Everyone wants to reach their potential. And for me, it was never about material success. I mean, for me, that is just fool's gold. That's a chimera. That isn't, because it's easy to see the rich people that are still unhappy, that are still lacking something inside of them, that are dead inside. And so the fast cars, the big house isn't important. The people that I would look up to are the ones that actually had meaning and purpose in their life. And that for me was what was important. And I always was searching for that in one way or another. And, I even committed to that journey for a long time. And I explored so many different paths to try and find that. I was very drawn, in anthropology, for instance, I was very drawn to some of the esoteric traditions, some of the wisdom traditions. I was a practicing Buddhist for a long time with a very strong, disciplined meditation practice. That came to an end because it didn't give me all the answers. I was a very devotee of psychology and therapy. I used a lot of, modern tools. I went to all sorts of workshops and group therapies and talk therapy to try and understand myself. I read every self-development book on the shelf, from The 7 Habits to Tony Robbins to all of those things. They all had elements of what it was. They all had pieces of the puzzle. But it was when I discovered breathwork and that somatic practice that integrated everything that I'd understood, that everything that I'd learned, that didn't replace anything, didn't say anything was wrong, but it brought it all together in a physical practice that we could do. We could do every single moment. And there's so much I love about the breath because it's accessible to everyone. It's essentially free. And it isn't about anything external for us. It is a way to connect to our own wisdom, to our own power, our own sovereignty. And that was really important to me. It wasn't, I had to go and learn this from someone else, or I had to have this experience from outside. It was about me finding myself. And that's what it was that I discovered that was really about lighting myself up. Something that you said earlier about trusting ourselves. One of the things that I keep hearing is about the journey from the head to the heart. It's the shortest distance, but the longest journey to truly to do that. But for me, it was the breath that enabled me to have the key, to discover the door, to open that up, and that ability to go there. And that's what it was. It didn't come overnight. I had transformative experiences. I had those road to Damascus light up moments where suddenly I had visions or downloads. I saw paths, but it was that commitment to showing up for myself and that practice that I went from those huge cathartic moments of realizations to actually understanding that those moments are available to us in every single breath if we allow ourselves to experience it. And that's, to me, what really lighting myself up is, for allowing myself to be what is inside of me, to connecting to that light within inside of me and allowing it to shine, not keeping myself small to keep other people feeling safe and comfortable. I don't know if you know that quote from Marianne Williamson. What we fear is not our greatest wounds. It's about feeling what we are most concerned about is our own power, our own strength. That's what we are most afraid of. And by keeping ourselves small doesn't serve anyone, doesn't serve God, doesn't serve ourselves. So that is something that it means to me. It's about allowing myself to truly reach my potential, to truly shine. And I just lucky to discover that through my own breath.
Well, I agree with everything you said, except the lucky piece is that, I've been around our worlds long enough to know that through perseverance, through intentionality, through a willingness to learn and discover, typically these lucky moments present themselves. You were put on this earth to do the work that you're doing, brother, but at the same time, it came through a willingness to go and find it. And I'm so thankful that you did. I know that everyone listening is so thankful that you did. And I'm just so appreciative of this conversation. Anything and everything that we need to know and learn about you will be made available through our show notes. But at the same time, Ben, I will also want to just give you that opportunity to share anything that you think is worth sharing with our listeners in closing here. And we'll probably go out with one nice big breath too.
Well, I think I'm going to just almost share that with you. If you're interested in breathwork, if anything that I have said has sparked or ignited in your interest in developing breath, and I promise you it can support all levels of your being, from your physical health to your emotional balance to releasing, letting go of wounds, to being creative or spiritual connection, it can do all of those. The best practice that I have discovered at all is how we are going to close this practice, our conversation right now. And that's just by stopping, pausing, and sharing a breath together. That one practice, I promise you, has just revolutionized every single relationship that I've had. And I do it even with my accountant, who definitely isn't into this kind of world at all. So if there's one practice that I'm going to ask all of your listeners to do, it's whenever, especially if you're about to enter into a difficult conversation or a conversation that has got a lot of energy around it, just stop, pause, and take a breath. And it's a perfect way to end a conversation, a very magical conversation, Steve. I want to thank you for this because it has meant an extraordinary amount to me.
Oh, right back at you. Appreciate that, brother. And I know it's just the most recent of many conversations we'll continue to have down the road. In the meantime, once again, just so much appreciation for just the generosity of insight, the generosity of your time, and of course, the impact of your message has certainly been felt. So thanks again, brother. And my thanks again to Ben for joining us on the show. To wrap things up here, I want you to really think about a specific part of yourself that you need to improve the relationship. Okay, so think, what are those areas that you know you resist to dedicate time to, that you insist are areas that you are incapable of growing, of improving, of bettering yourself? How would you describe the relationship you have with that part of yourself? You know, for me, it's always been education. It's so bizarre. As I was going through this episode with Ben, my mind went back to all these beliefs that I've had embedded in me through my education, always being told that, man, you're not as smart as you could be. You're not as capable, or proving that you're as capable as you could be. And man, I've held on to that. I'm 40 years old and I'm still holding on to that. The relationship that I have with being smart, with being educated, is not a healthy one. It's something I can do some work around. And what part of yourself do you know that you still don't commit to having a meaningful, trustworthy relationship with, one that you want to strengthen and improve? What is that area of you? What is that part of you that it's time? It's time for you to improve that relationship starting today. So I really do encourage you to do some of this work around yourself. I hope that you took part. I hope that you were able to sit still for this episode and really engage with the work that Ben brought to us. And I hope that you continue to invest in yourself, to continue on your growth journey, to keep coming back and listening to more ways that you can develop yourself on your growth journey. Make sure you take the time to rate the episode. Make sure you take the time to share this episode. Make sure you subscribe to the show as well, whatever it may be, whatever you know you need to do to keep getting more growth ready direct to you. Make sure you're doing exactly that. Best of luck with anything and everything you've got going on in your world. And I look forward to doing this again with you very soon. Take a deep breath. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to Growth Ready. If you liked what you heard and are feeling ready to grow, be sure to leave a 5-star rating, subscribe to the show, and share the episode with someone you know is ready to fuel their growth journey today. We love our community, so don't hesitate to reach out to us at podcast@growthready.com. And until next time, we are Growth Ready, and you will be too.